Hello and welcome to week 1, Getting Started for the openSAP course in Action, Integration Framework for SAP Business One. My name is Annemarie Kiefer. I'm a member of the Integration Framework development team, and in my role as a User Assistance Development Architect, I'm providing all documentation for the Integration Framework. In this unit, I will give you an introduction to data transformation. The objective of this unit is to explain the process for transforming the XML message during integration framework processing and to present some XSL statements that are commonly used in data transformation. The XML message needs to be converted so that it describes the output structure of the data required by the receiver system. For example, your input data from the sender might be a flat file structure. However, your receiver system only accepts the data in a different structure, for example, in a 3-level hierarchy. In the process flow of a scenario step, you are working in XML. You transform the data in the XML message into an XML representation of what the receiver or caller expects. When you create a scenario step, a transformation atom called atom 0 or final transformation atom is automatically provided for you. The transformation atom has a pre-configured XSL file. It is attached. XSL is a style sheet language for XML documents. You can use XSL transformation statements to convert an XML file into another format, such as, for example, HTML. In the integration framework, however, we use XSL transformation statements to transform the XML message being processed. When you define a scenario, you add your data transformation statements to the atom XSL file. In synchronous scenarios, this is the response message the integration framework returns to the original sender or caller. In asynchronous scenarios, this is the message the integration framework hands over to the outbound adapter before it is sent to the receiver system or systems. At runtime, the XSL transformation adds an extra payload section to the XML message, payload type R for receiver. You can also add more transformation atoms anywhere in the step process to enrich the XML message further during step processing. XSLT is a language for transforming an XML document from one format to another. The transformation statements are written as template rules. When writing your transformation rules with XSLT, you can also use XPath and XQuery. These 3 languages are closely intertwined. XPath, or XML path language, uses path expressions to navigate through an XML document. In the integration framework, you use XPath expressions to navigate to XML elements in the message, such as a specific field in the sender payload section. XQuery, or XML query language, allows you to perform queries on the XML data in the message. We are not using query in the integration framework. If you want to have further information, the links to the tutorials on XSLT, XPath and XQuery are shown here. Let's look at an example of XSL transformation. It is a very simple example. We will convert the sender payload XML into a receiver message. The sender message has a structure with header and lines as nodes. The receiver message has a different structure with a new element and with other names and a flatter structure. For the receiver XML, we first design a root tag called RCV-MSG or receiver message. We define two new elements, account no for account number and name, and use the XSL transformation statement value of select to extract the values from the sender message elements in this new elements. We use an XPath expression called SND MSG for sender message header field 1 to navigate to the field 1 node in the sender XML message. Note, XSL style sheet elements can be written without end tags if the element is nested within another element. In the example XSL, value of select ends with a slash and greater sign, and there is no end tag because the element is self-closing. Next, we declare a variable called line count and assign to it the count of the number of line nodes in the sender message. The result is 2. We use an XPath expression to navigate to the line node. We define a new element, line count, and use the XSL value of select to extract the count from the variable into the receiver XML using the count function. When using a variable, add a $sign in front of the variable name. We use the if test XSL statement to make sure there are line nodes in the sender message. Note that if you use the greater than character as greater than, you must use the annotation &GT. Otherwise, the XML parser will interpret this as an element tag, and you will get an error. Then we use the XSL for each statement to select and loop through the line nodes in the sender message using XPath to navigate to the line node. For each line element in the sender message, we define an element called RCV line. Within this element, we define new elements quantity and product and extract the value of each field from the line element. We use a relative path here, // to access the sender fields, since we have already navigated to the line node before. Now let me come to an online demo. I open my integration framework for this, and I just want to show you what it looks like when you are creating a new scenario step. I click the plus and call it new step, save it, and when I now click the processing, you can see exactly what you've seen before in the presentation, that we have a final transformation atom here generated automatically. If I click this area, then an XML processor opens, and you can then go to this XML processor, XML editor, and add your XSL statements here. Always use the template transform section. All the other sections belong to the integration framework, and you should not touch them. Here you can also see the name and where it is stored in the BIS store. So here you have the atom0 XSL. Let me show you now our small example that we saw in the presentation. I have here the final transformation atom. And you can see here what I added to come from the sender message to the receiver message. You see here that I use a variable, $MSG, which I wouldn't use in an XML processor. I use it here in the integration framework context. It is defined in each XSL atom as the variable that represents the incoming sender message. So if I run a test here, I see my incoming message. See it here, sender message, header, field 1, field 2, lines, line, and so on and so forth. And if I click the next red arrow, I see how this message has been transformed by the XSLT in the atom 0. So if you want to see it without the context of the integration framework, you can do that as well, because under Tools and Control Center, Development, we have here a point that says Execute Style Sheets. I can go to the BIS store, to the design area, select my transform, and here in atom 1 I have defined everything without the dollar message in front of the XPath statements. And now I can also select an incoming message that is then being executed for this transformation. I submit it. And if I click here, then the outbound document, you see here the receiver message that we've already seen in the presentation. Just one word to the XSL documents. When you are working here, you probably do not have a straightforward approach to enter all the different atoms. It can happen that you delete an atom from a process flow, and if it is a transformation atom, then we do not automatically delete the attached XSL document. This is why we do not want to delete your developments. However, if you are sure that you do not need these XSL documents that are no longer attached to a transformation atom, we have here this function that helps you to remove the XSL style sheets that you no longer use, and they are removed from the BIS store. So let us go back to our presentation. Here is a summary of this unit. The data in the XML message that the integration framework processes is transformed using XSL statements, such as, for example, XSL value of select for extracting the value from an element, XSL for each select for navigating nodes in the XML message, or XSL variable for defining a variable XPath XPath expressions are used to navigate through the sections and nodes in the XML message. At runtime, a new section is created in the XML message in the section R with the transformed data. This is the final unit for week 1. Thank you for attending this week. We hope that you enjoyed it. We wish you all the best for the weekly assignment. Next week, we want to show you how to build an integration scenario.